Hello everyone, good morning. I'm Dr. Viswanath Aluru, attending physician in physical medicine and rehabilitation at Oxford Health in New Orleans. Welcome to Part 2 US Residency Training and Beyond. In the last video, I discussed about transitioning from being a medical student to a first year resident or an intern. But one important thing that I wanted to mention is about the expenses. How much does it actually cost for this transition? So I was in a similar situation when I wanted to move from my job to my first year internship training. I had to move to an entirely different state. I did not realize how expensive the process was. So if you take the expenses, the main expenses like renting an apartment. When you rent an apartment, you have to pay for 1 month rent and you have to pay 1 month in advance. So it was 2 months that I have to pay on the very first day of signing the contract or the lease with the apartment. And another major expense was actually the moving expenses, because I had to move all my furniture, my stuff from one state to another state. That costed me a lot of money. And also other important expenses like vehicle purchase or applying for your licenses, or if you're planning to take a step 3 exam, your step 3 expenses. So just for me to actually transition from my current job to that new position internship, it almost costed me like $8,000, and this was in 2016, almost 10 years ago. So it is very important that you actually sit down, do your homework, try to write down each and every single expense that you're going to encounter until you start your residency training, because as a medical student you will not have a lot of savings. And this is even more important for international medical graduates. If you're trying to move from your country to your residency training, you need to sit down, do a thorough expense list, and actually find out how much it's actually going to cost you until you actually start your residency training, until you get your first paycheck. So, and then you need to find resources. Who is going to help you? It's your parents, it's your close family members, friends, or it's your any savings that you have. And I don't think you'll have a lot of savings as a medical student. Or if you're planning to do some part-time job for the next 2-3 months to save some money, you need to come up with something that can actually support you or fund you for this transition. And that's very important, and you should start thinking on the very day that you match. So, and no one really talks about these expenses. This is very stressful topic, and I was in a very stressful situation. Thankfully I was doing a research job that helped me to some extent with these expenses, but still all of a sudden if you have to pay like $6,000 $7,000 out of pocket, then it's a lot of stress. So I highly recommend you do this homework, you prepare your expense chart, and you come up with certain ideas how you're going to fund this, who is going to help you through this transition phase. And with that, I want to discuss about the orientation. So as an intern, as a new resident who is going to start residency training, you must go through this orientation. Some of you might think that you may not need to go to orientation, or you don't have to worry too much about orientation, but it is super important you start on the day one of the orientation. That's why you should move to that state where you're planning to do your internship or first year residency training, like a 1 week before your start of orientation. Get settled down in your new apartment and then be ready for the day one of the orientation. Your day one of the orientation is almost like your day one of your internship training, because the programs will pay you for participating in the orientation, because that's important, because that's how much important it is for you to do the orientation, because you need to know about the hospital, teaching hospital, and the rest of the teaching hospitals where you will be rotating. You need to know about your rotation schedule. You should know about your department, the floors where you will be doing your rotations, or the ICUs, or ORs if you're a surgical intern or a resident, or the pre-op areas, the post-op areas, the clinics, and the place where your didactics will happen, and your department, your administration, your coordinator, your all the other staff. So you need to know about all these things. And also you should have clearances from major departments. One is the security clearance, the second thing is your IT clearance, and the third thing is your HR clearance. So you will get all these clearances only when you submit all your necessary documentation to the department on time, so they can work on all these things by the time of orientation. So you need to get a security clearance, so you will get your photo ID badge, and you will also get access to all the passages, all the doors in the building. And then you need to get your IT clearance. Once they clear you, then you will get access to the computer systems. You will get access to all the softwares that you will be using as a part of your internship or residency training. The third important thing is your human resource clearance, because they have to run all the background checks to make sure that there is no reason to actually further investigate your identity. It's very important for international medical graduates, especially. They have to do their labor clearance, they have to do immigration clearance, because they have to make sure that you have a valid work visa, all your documents are valid. So that's why it's important that you be in touch with your department, you send them the necessary paperwork, so they work on all these clearances by the time you start your orientation. That's why it's also important that you attend this orientation from the day one. So you will not only get all these clearances, but you will also get orientation and training, how to handle various situations. You need to know the hospital policies, rules and regulations. You need to know how to access the computer systems, how to actually use the computer softwares, especially electronic medical records. As an international medical graduate, you will not be aware of all these electronic medical records and computer softwares, so they will give you proper training during these orientation days. When I was starting my internship in general surgery, we had orientation for almost like I would say 15 days, more than 2 weeks, where you thoroughly went through various steps in, like, how to properly use electronic medical records, and how to access all the different softwares and different systems, and also about quality improvement policies, or infection control, infection prevention policies, properly using technology, and properly using patient health information, HIPAA regulation, health information privacy regulations, and workplace violence, and being able to work in a collegial environment with your staff, with your co-residents. And you also need to know your department faculty, your co-residents, your seniors, administrative staff. So that's why this orientation is super important, because once you have proper orientation, that will be like a foundation that will give you a good start to your first day of your internship training or residency training. With that, I'm going to end this video. In the next video, we're going to talk about the life of a first year resident or intern. So how the day looks, and how the work flows during a typical day. Okay, I hope to see you all in the next video. All the best. Bye bye.